What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Yedide, and if it's your first time stopping by, you are most definitely welcome. So on today's episode, I'm going to be showing us how I made this beautiful little stylish crop top. You can see it has a little overlap at the front, and at the back it has this opening and with belt that you can tie. So guys, if this is something you're interested in, let's get right into the video. So guys, the first thing I'm going to do is to draft the front pattern on this pattern paper before transferring to the main fabric. So I'm just going to rule this little ½ inch at the top, which is going to serve as my shoulder line. So guys, I'm going to measure 18.5 inches across. This is the length of the top is 20 inches, so I'll subtract 1.5 inches, which is going to be for the belt below. So 18.5 inches is what I'm going to be measuring here. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure about 4 inches before I take any body measurement. This 4 inches is at the center front of this top. So guys, this 4 inches is going to be for the overlap. So depending on how open you want this to be, you can make use of 3 inches. If you don't want your chest to open at all, you can make use of 5 to 7 inches. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7, and the neck width is 3.5 inches. So from the shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch, which is for my shoulder slope, and I'll connect this back into the neck wideness I just took. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to measure is the bust line, which is 10 inches. So I'll just measure this across and rule it out. This is the bust line, and I will label it. So now on that bust line, I'll measure my shoulder, which is 7 inches, and from there I'll come up by 2 inches. So this is my armhole. So you can get your armhole this way. So on the armhole, I'm going to measure the midpoint, which is 3.5 inches, and I'll come out by ½ inch. Then I'll use my curve rule to connect the dots together. So now guys, the next thing is to measure my nipple to nipple divided by 2 on the bust line and the full length of this top. So nipple to nipple is 7 divided by 2, that's 3.5 inches. So for my darts on this full length, which is the waistline, I'll come in by ½ inch, and on the bust line I came down by 1 inch, and I'll connect that to the ½ inch I took on both sides of the waistline or the full length. So now the next thing is to take my measurement, the bust circumference divided by 4. I'll take that on the bust line. Then I'll do the same thing for the waist, and for this waist, after taking my waist measurement divided by 4, I'm going to add back the darts, which is 1 inch. Then I'll add 1 inch seam allowance to both the bust measurement and the waist measurement I just took, and I'm going to connect everything together. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is this 4 inches here, I'm going to connect it. You can see at the tip or at the bottom of this top, I'm going to connect it back into my neck wideness. You can see, just connect this in a slanted form as if you are measuring out a wrap top. You can also make use of your curve rule to make that place curve, if you don't want it straight like this, but I want mine straight. So now from the shoulder, I'm going to come in by ½ inch. I don't want the shoulder to extend out, so just come in by ½ inch so this arm can sit perfectly on your shoulder. So you can see I just use my curve rule to make that little curve. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is add ½ inch to the to this full length, below this full length. This is going to be for my joining allowance to the belts. So now I'll also add ½ inch to my shoulder. This is going to be for my shoulder joining, to join this front to the back piece, and I'll just connect both points together. So guys, we are basically done with the front pattern. I'm just going to cut this out. So you can see I've gone ahead to label this front. So guys, time to cut out the back pattern. So also like the front, I'm going to leave ½ inch at the top here. This is going to serve as the shoulder line, so I'll just extend this line here. So now the next thing I'm going to measure out is the bust line. just like the front, which is 10 inches, and the length of this top, which is 18.5 inches. Don't forget the full length of this top is 20 inch. we just subtracted 1.5 inches for the belt. So now I'm going to extend the lines like so. This is the bust line and the full length of the top. So now I'm going to go ahead now to take my shoulder measurement divided by 2. This is 7, and I'll measure the same neck wideness, which is 3.5 inches, and I've gone ahead to take my shoulder slope. The shoulder slope is 1 inch. So now on this bust line, I'm going to measure my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I'll come up by 2 inches. So this is going to be my chest line. Then I'll also connect this new line back into my shoulder line to get my armhole. Then I'll just use my armhole curve to get the armhole curve here. So now I'm just going to go ahead to label this. You can see the chest line, the bust line, and the full length. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 on all 3 horizontal lines. This is so as to get my dart on the waistline. So on the waistline, which is the full length, I'll come in and out by 1/2 inch. Then I'll connect this back into my chest line. Then guys, remember the back has an opening, so from the center back I'll come in by 1 inch. You can see come in by 1 inch and connect that into the neck wideness that I marked earlier. So I'll just connect this in a slanted form like so. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is, starting from that center back, I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4 on the bust line, and I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. I'll also do the same thing on the waist. From the center front, I'll take my measurement divided by 4, and I'll add 1 inch seam allowance and also add back 1 inch for the dart. So I'm just going to connect all the points together. So now I'm going to add 1/2 inch at this shoulder for the shoulder joining allowance, and I'll also do the same thing at the tip of this top here. I'll add 1/2 inch to the full length. This 1/2 inch will also serve as the seam allowance when joining to the belt. So now, just like the front, I'm also going to come in here by 1/2 inch. On the shoulder here, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch and connect this back into the armhole. So guys, this is it. We are basically done with the pattern drafting. This is the back piece, so I'll just go ahead. You can see I'm gonna add to cut it. So guys, the only place I didn't add allowance to is this center, so I'm going to add allowance when cutting on the fabric. I'm going to add allowance to the center. So here you can see what I mean. This allowance I added here is for folding, so that when I'm sewing, you know, I can easily fold it like so. So remember to add allowance when you're cutting on your main fabric. So now guys, let's join these fabrics together. So guys, I've also gone ahead to cut out the belt. You can see the belt wideness is 4 inches, and when you fold it, you can see like so, it is going to give you 2 inches. So 1.5 inches for the belt wideness and 1/2 inch for seam allowance. And the belt wideness, guys, is your waist circumference times 3. So I just cut out about 80 inches long belt. So guys, this is the sleeve. Take your sleeve circumference, your armhole circumference at the front, then multiply that by 2. You can see mine is 9 times 2 is 18 inches. So I have 18 inches on the front, 18 inches on the back also. So guys, the wideness is going to be 4.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead to measure 5.5 inches, with the 1 inch is for the seam allowance, and I'll also measure 5 inches at the hem here. So I'll connect both points together in a straight line. This is for the sleeve. So guys, I'll measure what I have at the bottom of my sleeve here and get the midpoint. So once I mark the midpoint, I'm going to connect that in a slanted form back into the straight line I drew earlier. So here it is. This is very simple to do. So I'll just cut this out. So I'll go ahead to cut out another piece like this for the other sleeve. So you can see I have 2 pieces of this. This is for my sleeve. So why we doubled the armhole circumference is so as to have enough room to gather, because we are going to be gathering this sleeve. So just your armhole circumference, if your armhole is 8, you know, multiply that by 2 So on one part you have 16 inches and on the back too you have 16 inches, so that you can have, you know, enough fabric together. So guys, let's go ahead to join the fabrics. I'm just going to mark my darts on the fabric. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to mark my darts on the fabric and I'm going to go ahead to notch them so as to know where to place my darts when I'm sewing. So guys, don't forget to also notch where your overlap will be. You can see the overlap parts. I'll just go ahead to notch that so I can easily identify it when I'm sewing. So guys, the next thing now is to hold my darts. On the front dart, the length of the dart on the front is 4 inches, while darts of the back is 5 inches. So this is the front dart, the back is 5 inches. So I'll just go ahead to hold this down with half of an inch. I'll go ahead to do this now. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to hold my darts. This is what they look like. You can see these are the back pieces. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is just to arrange the front on the back. I'm going to arrange this so I can join the shoulders. So I'm going to join the shoulders by half of an inch. Don't forget we left half of an inch when I was drafting out this pattern, which is the joining allowance. So I'll go ahead to do that now. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to hold my shoulders. So I'll turn this to the right side. You can see. So I just simply turn this back to the wrong side. So what I'm going to do now is to hold this seam allowance I left by the side. I left 1 inch, so I'm just going to go ahead to hold that. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to hold my seam allowance on the sides of these pieces. So this is what they look like. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to hold down the center of these pieces from front to back. So remember I left some allowance when I was cutting on main fabric, so I'll just fold this twice. This is the center of the piece. You can see from the front to the back. I'm going to fold this twice and sew this down. So this is very easy to do. You can also use a bias to turn this. So here it is, I've gone ahead to do that. You can see what it looks like. So guys, the next thing now is to place the overlaps on each other and sew that down. So don't forget that part we notched for the overlap so as to identify where the overlap is. So here you will determine which one is going to overlap each other, if it's your front or your back. So I'll just go ahead to sew that down. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to do that. You can see what it looks like. So this will hold all your pieces down in place. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is notch the middle of my belt. After notching the middle of my belt, I'm going to place the tips on each other. This is not compulsory. So from the end of this belt, I'm going to come in by 3 inches. Then I'm just going to I'm going to cut this in a slanted form. This is just to make, like, you know, this bow like shape for the belt. I don't want it just in a rectangular form. So I'm going to go ahead now to hold this part. I'm going to hold this down with about half of an inch. So now guys, I've notched the center of my belt. So I've also gone ahead to notch the center of this top. So guys, I'm going to be placing the centers on each other like so. So now guys, the right side of the belt is facing the wrong side of this top. I hope you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to use my pins to hold the belt down in place to the top. So the right side of this belt is facing the wrong side of the top. So I'm going to go ahead now to sew that down. You can see by half of an inch here. I'll sew this down so that by the time I am done, I can easily cover this up. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to cover this up. So but let's go ahead to do that first, and I'll show you when I'm done. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to join that part to the whole top. You can see this is what it looks like. This is very easy to do. So now the next thing is to use the other part of the belt. This is why your belt should be in a folded form. You can go ahead to iron it. So I'm going to use the other part to cover up what I've just sewn. You can see this. I'm going to sew this down by 1/2 inch. So here it is, guys. This is what it looks like. So now the next thing now is to cover up our ends. So now remember this little bow I made earlier, this little shape I made earlier. I'm just going to use my scissors to turn this out. So I'll continue the sewing here. You can see here, I'll just hold this in by like 1/4 inch and I'll sew both sides down. So I'll do the same thing for the other side. So here it is, guys. You can see this is very easy to do. I've gone ahead to sew down the belt. So now the next thing now is to fix our sleeves. So now for the sleeve, what I'm going to do is to run a straight stitch on this. This is going to be a gather stitch so that I can gather it like this, and on this other curved end I'm going to roll it twice or fold it twice and run a stitch on it. So you can see, guys, I've gone ahead to hold down the curved part, and for this other part I've gone ahead to run a straight gather stitch on it. I've gone ahead to do the same thing for the other sleeve. So guys, I'm just going to hold one part of this thread, and I'm going to gather this. So guys, what you want to do is you want to gather this to your armhole circumference. So now, guys, my armhole is 18 inches. Now if you divide that by 2, that is 9 inches. So by the time I'm done gathering, I want to have about 9.5 inches. 1/2 inch is going to be for seam allowance. So as you're gathering, just continue to measure it till you get what you want. So here it is, guys. I'm done gathering, and I think at this point I got about 9.5 inches. So don't forget that this is on fold. The full armhole circumference is 18 inches. So now, guys, I'll just turn this to the wrong side once I get what I'm aiming for, 9.5 inches, and I'm going to sew this down. The ends, I'm going to sew that down by 1/2 inch. So here it is, guys. I've gone ahead to do that. So now it is time to fix this to our sleeve. So this is very easy to do, just like you fix your sleeve to your armhole. So that joining part, I'm going to make sure they are facing each other, both the joining on the sleeves and on the top. And I'm going to use my pins to hold the sleeve down in place to the top. And when I'm done, I'm going to sew that round by 1/2 inch. So here it is, guys. I'm going to sew this down now, and I'll do the same thing to the other sleeve. So guys, you can see this is what the top looks like. I'm gonna head to fix the sleeves to the top. So I feel like the sleeves and that open back is what I really love most about this top. So if you have any questions for me, please let me know down in the comment section below. So guys, we've come to the end of our tutorial. Please don't forget to like this video, give this video a big fat thick thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'm going to see you all in my next video. Bye.